Should we start with Ricky Jade, then picked up the injury on Tuesday night? How's he doing?
Yeah, he's still sore. He's still very swollen in the knee, in the inside of his knee. He has got a scan tomorrow. We have to wait for the swelling to go down a little bit before we can get the scan and get the proper results. First initial reaction was obviously we feel he's damaged his ligaments. There's a concern it could have been worse, but we've sort of gone away from that a little bit. But the truth of the matter is we won't know fully until the scan results come in.
Is it with Ricky a case of we've seen it before with some players where they're young and their bodies are changing quite a lot? Is that perhaps why he's had so much of an issue with different injuries?
No, I think with this one it was just pure bad luck really, and this can happen when the pitch is a little bit dry at this stage of the season. I've seen a lot of knee injuries where your foot just sticks on the grass and it twists your knee, and that was with the case. And when you see that and there's no contact, I feel I'm a lot more worried when there's no contact, because that suggests a problem. And certainly with Ricky, it was straight away. Physio just said straight away, get him off. Doctor and physio looked at it. So it's not a great one, but I spoke to the boy yesterday. It's a blow for him because he had a good opportunity. But it's part and parcel of the game. He'll be fine. He's young. If it's just the medial ligaments, we'll probably see him 10, 12 weeks.
Yeah, they wanted that momentum, but that's the way that football goes. With Siriki Dembele, you mentioned on Tuesday, I think at that point you expected he'd be ruled out for the weekend. Is that still the case?
Bit more optimistic, to be honest. He's trained today and trained very well. So, just given the amount of training sessions he's done since Oxford, it's one, so that would be a concern. But yeah, he trained very well, I have to say. So, a little bit more optimistic, but still, with the 3 games in the week, probably risky to be starting him. He may be involved, but I'm not so sure at the moment. And no reaction tomorrow when he trains, then he's got half a chance.
Yeah, in some respects it's frustrating the way it falls, but then it's the nature of the Championship, isn't it, that you've got such a busy week coming up, and that impacts for the 2 Jacks as well, in that if they're edging towards fitness, you just got to be careful as to how you use them. Yeah,
it's been a frustrating start. Not just the results, obviously, and the performances, but certainly the bodies available. And there's been too many things going on, and we have to be very careful with 1 or 2 of them. I would like to think by the time we get to the international break and get out of the international break, we're all going to be in a far better position in terms of fitness and where we're at. But yeah, with Jack Taylor, we just have to see how he trains and gets on with it. With Jack Marriott, the same. We're looking for any reactions, any niggles, any feedback from them, and really it's taking it day by day with those 2.
How did Olly Norburn get on at Spalding last night?
Yeah, it was just a case of getting him minutes. We cruised through it. He's trained this morning, trained very, very well. His fitness, and he's a fit lad anyway, so yeah, he's a good addition. It's just what we need.
Yeah, so you're happy he could come straight in at the weekend?
Yeah, I'm confident that he could come straight into the team.
What do you make of Derby as a whole? Obviously very early days in the season, so a bit like Luton last weekend, always hard to make too much of a judgment.
Well, yeah, I think it's public knowledge the sort of issues they've had and problems they've had. I've watched a couple of their games. I watched a game against Huddersfield, very good shape, very disciplined, very organised. It's going to be a very tough game, and there's no question about that. Obviously they changed the personnel against Salford in the week, but now they've got some very talented boys, and it's going to be a tough game.
You mentioned about the game plan, or the way that you felt it hadn't been enacted in the way that you wanted it to at Luton, and you mentioned about the atmosphere and maybe failing to settle as you'd feared going into that game. Is that a big takeaway going into this one? Do you hope that all of that buzz that will be around the game, it will be another big crowd, that it will be a bit easier for the players to settle and focus on the job?
Well, I hope so. My main focus this week, well, certainly yesterday and today, is just about getting players, making sure they keep their confidence, and making sure that we get back to basics, Pete. And I know it sounds simple, but keep playing off the structure that we want to play off, and as I said after the game on Tuesday night, get back to basics and get back to being a bit more solid.
Yeah, because with Tuesday you had the changes, and then with with Saturday, it's not really going to help anyone, is it? If you get too wrapped up in the occasion, it's one of those things that gets mentioned in football all the time. But it must be hard for the players then to focus on what they're supposed to do. If they can actually do that and stay a little calmer, that'll be a big step forward, won't it?
I think it's vital that we stay calm and stick to the game plan. And against Luton, we seem to lose ourselves a little bit. But yeah, we have to stick to the game plan and hope we're good enough on the day. But certainly getting back to basics and being tougher to concede against, you know, in terms of getting clean sheets would help. But the players know that they've fallen below the standards that we've set. They know that, and the expectations that we set. And once we do that, everyone's disappointed. But, you know, we sat here last week, the season had it started. Yeah, we've had 2 bad performances and results, but you're not going to change your opinion on what I've got in the room in terms of what I've got in the building over those 2 games. Absolutely not at all. And I've explained that to the players. We just need to get back to the standards that we set.
Yeah, and it's ever really been that way in football. You lose a game in the middle of the season, it's completely different from losing the first couple of games. Inevitably, there's less to focus on, isn't there? So it becomes a bigger thing. But you see it with loads of seasons. We saw it with last season, how you can quickly kick on.
Well, last season we lost our first 2 games. We lost to Cheltenham, we lost to Accrington. Hadn't scored a goal, conceded 3. This season, obviously, even worse. But you know, I think it's important that we just make sure that we play to the standards we can. And look, we're all disappointed with the start of the season. There's no getting away from it. But it is only the first 2 games. But again, even last season in a league lower down, if you don't get to the standards and levels that you need to get to, you're getting beaten. That's what happened this season, shown that against the League One team as well, Plymouth. Yeah, and I did make a lot of changes, but for the right reasons. You know, I wanted to see these players. Players needed minutes, there was no doubt about that. And obviously I've now got another team to pick against Derby.
Yeah, and it's funny, isn't it, the flow of a championship season, in that because you get the international breaks, you've got a really intense week coming up, and then a 3-week period really with just the West Brom game, and then it's just another new challenge to handle. Yeah,
that's what it is in the champ, you know. And the first 3 or 4 months at the end of each one of those, you've got international breaks. So you're right. It's like you can plan it quite well actually, in terms of, right, we've got 1 month, we've got this amount of games, we need to get as many points as we can, and then we've got a bit of a breather, and then we assess things, and then you go again, and that's what it's like. It's relentless, the championship. Yeah, you do get the international breaks, but leading up to that is quite a lot of games. But you know, myself, I'm accustomed to it in terms of, and some of the players are, but I don't think you're going to get a season as relentless as last season. You know, there's going to be no reasons to not be able to cope with that at all. And actually, funnily enough, I feel that the more games we have, the better we're going to get.
Yeah, and as you say, with the current injury situation, actually, if you can focus on Sheffield United getting to a place where you want to be with some of those players, it's quite a nice target to have, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a realistic one as well. With the pre-season with the difficulties we've had, you know, and you'd have to say we're key members of the squad. Then we have to find a way of making sure we get through the month, get as many points as we can, and then obviously a clean bill of health hopefully when Sheffield United comes around.
Yeah, and you mentioned on Tuesday about getting another midfielder in on top of Olly. Given he's 28 and brings that level of experience, would it be the sort of profile of a younger midfielder just to complement what you've got?
Yeah, we've sort of lined one up, and it's just a case of getting him in, really. The club he's at have to obviously look after themselves and get 1 or 2 people in. Once that happens, I'm pretty certain that we'll get the boy in.
Yeah, and then the next stage for you guys, presumably, to get a couple out on loan?
Yeah, or permanent, you know, and we have to address the numbers, and obviously bringing in, you know, that would be 3 central midfield players I've brought in, added to Jack Taylor, you know, and we've also got others that are in there, so obviously the numbers are too big, so I'd have to address that.